Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the January 13th version of the Fountain Hills Planning and Zoning Commission. If you would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Paula, roll call, please.
Commissioner Corey?
Here.
Commissioner Corrigan?
Here.
Commissioner DePaul?
Here.
Commissioner Kovacevic?
Here.
Commissioner Schlossberg?
Here.
Commissioner Seavam? Chairman Gray.
Here, thank you, Paula. Agenda item number 3, open call to the public. Paula, any speaker cards?
Yes, Chair. One speaker card, Larry Myers.
Happy New Year. So my question is, when I looked at the discussion of a new commissioner or a new chair, my question is, what, are you tired of the job or are you termed out? Nothing against the other people that want to be the chair, but I've lived through some pretty serious discussions on multiple topics that were extremely thought out and completely organized by this chair, so of course I'm partial. One of which was the transitional housing, which quite possibly is a model for the entire country to not have their towns taken over by that horrible business that we so aptly named transitional housing, which is just a code word for residential detox. So that just being one example of Chairman Gray's good work, working with residents, researching, figuring a way to get something that our town attorney said couldn't be done, but it could be. So I understand there are other candidates. I don't know what their resume, I know what Mr. Kovacevic's resume is. I don't know what Commissioner Corey's resume is in terms of business experience or whatever, but that was my question. Are you termed out or are you tired of this? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. I can respond to that, right, Paula?
Sure.
So the answer is neither termed out nor tired, but probably time for somebody else to take the seat after several years. So, any other speaker cards, Paula?
No, Chair.
Thank you, Paula. All right, let's move to agenda item number 4, consideration and possible action to approve the regular meeting minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission from November 18th and December 9th. Commissioners, any deliberation or a motion, please? Commissioner Corrigan, you were first with the mic.
Oh.
So I think let's have Commissioner Corrigan abstain from this one, being the new seat, because it's meeting minutes from the prior. So who was first? Commissioner Corey?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve regular meeting minutes from the November 18 and December 9th meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
6-0.
Thank you, Paula. Agenda item number 5, consideration and action to appoint a chair to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Commissioners, we will seek nomination and a second on that nomination for the chair position. Commissioner Schlossberg.
Yeah, I'll make a nomination to appoint Commissioner Kovacevic to the chair position.
Second that.
Motion made by Commissioner Schlossberg, seconded by Commissioner Corrigan to appoint Commissioner Kovacevic to the role of Chair. Paula, roll call, please.
Commissioner Corey,
Aye.
Commissioner Corrigan. Commissioner DePaul,
Aye.
Commissioner Kovacevic,
Aye.
Commissioner Schlossberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Sevim,
Aye.
Chairperson Gray,
Aye.
7-0.
Thank you, Paula. Agenda item number 6, consideration and action to appoint a vice chair to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the term of 1 year. Commissioners, a motion, please. Commissioner Kovacevic,
I'll nominate Commissioner Corey.
looking for a second on Commissioner Kovacevic's motion.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Commissioner Kovacevic, seconded by Commissioner Schlossberg. Paula, roll call, please.
Commissioner Corey,
Aye.
Are you sure?
Commissioner Corrigan,
Aye.
Commissioner DePaul,
Aye.
Commissioner Kovacevic,
Aye.
Commissioner Schlossberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Sevim,
Aye.
Chair Gray,
Aye. Thank you, Paula.
7-0.
All right, as we fly through our agenda, we are to number 7, public hearing, consideration and possible action to request a special use permit to allow vehicle sales with outdoor displays at 15225 North Fountain Hills Boulevard.
Chairman, I guess, and Commissioners, Happy New Year. Good to be with you this evening. We'll go through this presentation fairly quickly because you've really seen it once before, but for the benefit of any who haven't been, new Commissioner Corrigan, who was in the audience but not up there before, we'll go through a quick presentation. So we are talking about a tract of land up northeast corner of Glenbrook and Fountain Hills Boulevard. The applicant has been operating a golf cart sales business there for a period of time. The zoning district C1 does not allow outdoor display. However, the commission has recommended, and council will have on their agenda next week, changing the ordinance to allow display of small vehicles in the parking lot. So we're processing this SUP back through you in anticipation of that text amendment being approved. So again, here is the property at the northeast corner, zone C1. Got commercial to the north and south and residential around it. And again, the area with the land uses, a variety of residential, commercial, and institutional type uses in the area. So again, with the change, so C1 allows vehicle sales of all types indoors. The change that's been approved is allow outdoor display of non-gasoline vehicles up to 1 ton or less in size with approval of a special use permit, but the text amendment also then would allow special approval of gas-powered for a maximum of 30 days display. The request involves suites 103, 4, and 5 for the sales golf cart sales business. The request in SUP for outdoor display. The applicant requested up to 6 parking spaces along the Fountain Hills Boulevard side for that use. When we apply the required parking requirements based on the building size, there's really only 1 space left available that's over that could be used for display. The general plan recognizes this area as a neighborhood-oriented commercial site serving the surrounding area. The development pattern also want to keep this in that scale of the small neighborhood-focused type uses. The zoning ordinance in section 202 F1D lays out the criteria for consideration and recommendation on a special use permit. There are basically 3 questions we look at when we do this. What would be the impact on the public health, safety, peace, and comfort of the neighborhood? Again, this has been operating there for about a year. We've had no problems with the use, except for the outdoor display that's been in violation of the current code. Any impact on those residing or working in the neighborhood? Again, staff has not identified anything, have not heard any negative comments from the neighborhood. And would this be detrimental or injurious to the property? We have not identified anything that would be a problem to the town by allowing the outdoor display of small vehicles, golf carts at this property. So the one consideration that we do have for you to give us some direction on would be how many parking spaces we should devote towards the display. Staff would suggest the area highlighted in red on this map be designated as the display area. That's 4 actual parking spaces and one kind of leftover area. Golf carts, they could probably get 5 or 6 golf carts in that area. So citizen participation, they had no attendees at their meeting, and staff had not had any contacts or interest from the public. A good neighbor policy, working with citizens and working to avoid any conflicts. Again, summary recommendation, staff does recommend approval and looks for the commission direction on the number of spaces. Questions?
Commissioner Corrigan, question? Reverse it.
Oh, yeah, thank you. We talked earlier, but you can accommodate then up to 6 vehicles on this as long as they're electric. We hadn't talked about, I heard earlier in last year's meeting that it could possibly be something besides a golf cart. I mean, it could be something, another recreational vehicle, as long as it's electric. Is that correct?
Chair, Commissioner Corrigan, yes, the ordinance, if I go back to that slide here, this one. So the special use permit specifically would allow small vehicles, non-gas powered up to 1 ton, and then if commission includes in their motion, could allow display of gas powered for a maximum of 30 days.
Thank you.
That would take a kind of a special statement in the approval that you're doing that.
Commissioners, other questions, or we go to public hearing? Commissioner DePaul?
Yeah, John, I drove by there and couldn't identify which side of the building does this business occupy? Is it the first building there?
Let's see
Was
here,
it
I'm not
that
sure which is
second
better.
one?
Let me use this one. I'm going to go back, I guess, actually to the more overall map. This map indicates the area where they are operating. And the south 3 suites of the building, I believe, are correct. The applicant can correct that if I'm wrong, but it's the south 3
So it's the first 3.
from up north from Glenbrook. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Corrigan, do you have another one?
I do not. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and open the public hearing. Paula, any speaker cards?
Yes, 1 speaker card. Crystal Kavanaugh.
Is there a reason that it can't just be a simple statement, text amendment? This is a golf cart business. Why are we going into electric versus gas versus, he might hardly ever have anything in gas, or he just might want to sell all those. It's not like he's going to have them running out in the lot for a significant time period. I'm just sensing, mostly from the, I think when I listened to it about the council too, before it came back here, it just started getting more complicated than it needed. Why don't you just give him an SUP for his golf carts and use the word golf cart display during business hours, just like people have to put out their A-frame and then bring in their A-frame at the end of business hours. I might be missing something, but I just think it's way simpler than it's been being presented.
Any others, Paula?
No, Chair.
All right, that was simple. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Commissioners, any final discussion or a motion, please?
Could, yes, Chair. John, could we address the point that she brought up? I think it does.
It's, Chair, Commissioner, yes, it is a valid point. Certainly the commission could, with a specific application, if you wanted to limit it to just golf carts, you could do that. The text amendment we processed, we had a little bit broader because we didn't know what all else might, work in a given situation. But
So we talked about this last time through, and the reason that it got expanded was he could take something in on trade, right? And so we wanted to account for the Vespa or something else to where we weren't limiting him from being able to move or handle a transaction. And so, yeah, I get it. It's more complicated, but unintended consequences of not doing it is why we did it.
you.
All right, no further discussion. Looking for a motion from the commission.
So again, sorry, just to clarify then, so what we're looking at is just allowing sales in that red, that square red area, nothing outside of that, and that's what, 5 spaces did I see on the picture?
Let me go back to that again, Chair, Commissioner. So yes, that's what staff is proposing, is that we designate these areas south of the driveway
Okay.
off of Fountain Hills Boulevard and west of the driveway off of Glenbrook as a place where a display could occur.
Okay.
You could do more or less than that if you'd like.
And I think I read that it's technically 4 spaces, and then the 5th one is kind of a partial space?
Yes.
Okay. And to clarify, I heard this from my fellow colleague here, that building on the bottom, I drove by it today, it says e-bikes on the corner of that one. Is that's the same business? Yes. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Are you in the market?
I just got one.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Commissioner?
There we are. I'll get it. Can we in fact expand this beyond, reasonable explanation of golf carts in general rather than just e-carts or electric carts?
We're free to make any recommendation or modifications to the language that we see fit. It was just that in the last session when this came before us, the question came up to the applicant of, well, do you have any desire to move a scooter, a small CC motorcycle through? And he said, yeah, not really, but occasionally he might take something in on trade, but would want to flip that, back to the market or sell it off within 30 days. And so that's why that gas-powered component got bolted on there. But, we're free to make any recommendation we see fit.
I might recommend that we use the golf cart in general rather than a specific category of electric versus gas. That would allow him a lot more latitude to, be free within his business rights to make a trade if it's a Vespa or another gas-powered cart. I think that's a reasonable thing to do, given his business is golf carts.
Commissioner Spiam?
The discussion was centered on golf carts. The other types of vehicles was kind of a side note. Originally, it was just electric carts, and I asked specifically if he may take a trade-in with a gas cart that he may want to display it. That's why this extra one the extra gas cart got included this time around. I don't personally, I don't have any problem either way, but it was set up originally as just electric carts. Was there a reason for that with the planning department, or I can't remember exactly, or was it what the applicant requested?
I think originally we were doing a text amendment to C1,
Well,
right? And we
That's a whole nother.
pivoted off of that because we've done that before and hadn't worked out in the second time through the gate.
Yes, Chairman, Commissioner, yes, when staff brought it forward, we were focused on the electric because of some potential concerns. You get gas-powered vehicles out there and the noise of them being, started and run and whatever, that little bit more of an impact in this neighborhood commercial area. It doesn't stop them from having them for sale inside the building, just not on the display outside. The commission looked at it and felt, as you just explained, well, there could be those instances where gas-powered would be okay, and so you amended what was proposed by staff, which was certainly fine. And so it now does this, assuming commission or the council next week approves it as you've recommended it, would allow the option to also approve the gas-powered on the limited basis.
Well, it seemed that the applicant was fine with that.
Yes.
When we got together last time, correct? Yeah, so that's why we ended up where we did.
Okay, if he's comfortable with that latitude, then I'm okay with it. It's his business. Yeah.
John is right. If I have a gas vehicle.
Let's have you come up to the mic so they can hear at home.
Correct. If I have a gas vehicle, I can just display it inside. It doesn't have to be outside, so I'm okay with that.
So applicant's okay with either. I would say keep it simple and let's move on with it. So I'll call for a motion. Commissioner Corrigan, do you want to make the motion?
Motion to approve?
It would be a motion to approve simplifying language to golf carts of the electronic variety only, correct?
Correct, as stated.
And inclusive of all staff comments? Spaces. Okay,
Second.
all right. Motion on the table from Commissioner Corrigan, seconded by Commissioner Corey, to make a recommendation to approve, inclusive of staff comments and recommendations for space allocation, however, simplifying the language to include electric golf carts only. Capture it all? All right,
Thank you.
Paula, roll call, please.
Commissioner Corey,
Aye.
Commissioner Corrigan,
Aye.
Commissioner DePaul,
Aye.
Commissioner Kovacevic,
Aye.
Commissioner Schlossberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Sevim, Chair Gray,
Aye.
7-0.
Thank you, Paula. All right, we're going to break protocol here just a little bit due to the intermingled complexities of the next two agenda items being adjacent to each other, although they're dissimilar uses. We're going to have staff, we're going to have Farhad present both cases, then open one public hearing that will address both, and then draw closure with two recommendations, one on agenda item 8 and one on agenda item 9. So in opening the hearing for both agenda item 8 and 9, they are both to hold a hearing, consideration, and possible action for the request of a special use permit to allow 10 single-family residential units on 6 properties in the commercial subdivision Plat 106. And in addition to that, agenda item number 9, a request for special use permit to allow for 4 multifamily buildings containing 3 dwelling units each on 4 adjacent 1,250 square foot parcels generally located 200 feet east northeast corner of Fountain Hills Boulevard at El Pueblo Drive. Farhad, presentations, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Happy New Year. I want to apologize in advance. I'm on the mend, so I hope you don't mind if my presentations get interrupted by an intermittent cough or 2 or 3. Mr. Chairman, as you mentioned, these 2 cases are interrelated, one of which was actually originally brought before you in November of last year. That was continued. This one that I'm presenting to you today first is a new item that I'm presenting before you. Same applicant, same site, different type of residential project. So the applicant in this case is proposing, as you mentioned, 10 single-family units, as he refers to them in his proposal, cottages, rather small units. The site is Plat 106 of up on the far northern part of the town, at the northeast corner of El Pueblo and Fountain Hills Boulevard, and more specifically, they involve the lots that you see here. It was platted back in 1974, and as you can see, there has been minimum development. There were 3 recent approvals in this area, and by recent I mean just within the last year or so, for residential in this commercial area. And as you well know, any type of residential use would require a special use permit if it's in a commercially zoned area. This is just to emphasize how little it has developed, Plat 106, in just within the past, well, now 21, 22 years. So the applicant is proposing a special use permit to allow 10 single-family residential, excuse me, there it is, units on 6 properties in a commercial subdivision known as Plat 106. With the coordinates that you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, I won't go through that again, in the community commercial zoning district. And what you're seeing below to start are some, obviously some color renderings of the alley-loaded garage for each of these units, which also would include the front entrance, and you'll see more detail in the site plans that follow. So just so we have our bearing straight, down here is El Pueblo Boulevard, and the existing parking lot, the common parking lot, is further to the west, and it's adjacent to Fountain Hills Boulevard, actually, just actually south of the subject property for the use permit in the previous case. And it is bifurcated by an alley, as you can see here. And you can see the convenience store located here adjacent to El Pueblo Boulevard, and the church here in the interior. Now, the 10 units are being proposed for the lots that the vacant lots that you see here, and also this row here. This parcel currently exists as one lot. The applicant, should the commission or council be inclined to approve it, would need to split these lots in order to accommodate for the 4 single-family units. And as you can see, in most cases here, it's a zero lot line orientation in at least on one side of each of these units. So again, 10 single-family units. They're approximately a little over 1,300 square feet, 2 stories. The applicant is proposing a tandem garage for each of these units. And the tandem garage is largely following staff's suggestion, or I should say staff's comment, that typically for single-family residential units, there are at least 2 covered parking spaces that are required for each single-family residential unit, but that only applies to single-family zoning districts. So one consideration that we may request further consideration on or direction from the commission is, should that requirement apply here as well. The initial proposal came in with only one garage, and right in front of that, it would have been a single-family garage, and in front of that would have been a open-air parking spot. So, so again, that's something that staff could use some direction on if the applicant were to come forward with any alternative design following tonight's meeting. So in doing a review and analysis, and much of this analysis is the same with the case that follows. The general plan does, of course, encourage infill in areas that are underutilized and a broad range of housing types and densities. So generally speaking, we think from a land use standpoint, Plat 106 would be appropriate for this kind of infill opportunity. And again, I would refer to the zoning ordinance to determine whether or not this use would have any impacts to public health, safety, and welfare. Again, cookie cutter type of point to bring up when looking at special use permits cases such as this, but it goes for just about all of them. The applicant has gone through the citizen participation process and has not to date received any opposition. There were some suggestions that were shared by the Plat 106 committee that are reflected on the site plan, and I'll have the applicant provide some details on that. But again, to date, we have not received any expressed opposition to the case. There are some design concerns that staff has spelled out in the staff report. One is particularly the row of homes being proposed furthest to the north. Here's the alley, and just beyond, and maybe I could probably see it here better, yeah. So this is where those 4 homes are proposed. Back here is the rear yard of a single-family residential unit. And as you saw in those elevations earlier, there was a balcony proposed which would be overlooking the rear yard here. So that's a design consideration that, we'd be ready to look at some alternative design methods to kind of mitigate that. The building footprint for the far western unit here, I'll go back to this slide. It does seem to be awfully close to the property line. I'll have the applicant explain some possible solutions to that, but one of which was to, in the future, acquire at least a portion of this commonly owned area, common to Plat 106 here, to shift over the units to provide a little bit more clearance here at the two adjoining alleys. The other concern is trash collection and mail delivery. There are a couple of trash enclosures, one here where my encircling right now, and actually the closest one to most of the units is over here on the eastern common parking area. It's about 230 feet away. The applicant has shared the idea of putting some trash bins out in the alley, out in the alleys, I should say. We are a little concerned about the narrowness of these alleys and whether or not any solid solid waste vehicles can go through, and even with the common trash dumpster or trash enclosures, Plat 106 so far has not expressed any opposition to the project, but and there was nothing specific about trash being taken out there, frequently by the residents, and whether that would be cause any concern. Guest parking is provided by the in the common areas. There are no separate guest parking stalls for each of the units, and also there. Aside from the balconies, and I think there was a few units that had a rather small patio, there are no open space amenities being offered here. Now, I do want to emphasize that the applicant, yes, it's coming to you as proposed, but he has expressed flexibility and is also looking to get input for perhaps some alternative designs to come back before you in the future. But as it stands right now, as we said, staff said that we would support the use, but we also would suggest some modifications to the proposal before approval. And the applicant, as I said, has expressed flexibility and is willing to listen to your suggestions. So that concludes the single-family cottages.
So can we take a few elements of this before
Absolutely.
we move on? Because I've got, well, I'm sure they're going to bridge both, but I've got one comment specific to this one, and it's specific to the parcel 15026, which is the northwesternmost parcel. When you move up a sheet to your aerial overlay that shows, the subject properties of, there you go. We talked about that alleyway with a prior zoning case, and how that all works, and, what rights are afforded to those single-family homes, given they've used that as a primary means of ingress, egress, for, I don't know how many years, a lot of years. What happens to that alley? How does that get treated with respect to their accesses and the legacy, entitlement to that passageway? And then whom, either developer or town, is responsible for the civil improvements of that alley to support this type of development?
Mr. Chairman, so this alley here, that's actually town's right away. This one here to the
Right, that's the one I'm referring to.
yeah, that's the one you're referring to.
Well, really both, but that's the one that's got the the access, you know,
Right.
entitlements to it.
Right. This is actually a common property to the Plat 106, this alley here. And so as far as accessibility, vehicular accessibility, of course, Plat 106 would need to provide their buy-in. Yeah, correction? Yeah. Okay.
Chair, the applicant for these homes over here, this apartment, as part of his site plan, he is working on the improvement of the alley past his property into this area. And he knows about this development to the west and the need to work together to tie that in. But as far as this property owner to the north, they'll have a paved alley in the future that they'll be able to use to access into there.
So it's the developments
The developer.
bear the cost
correct.
of those improvements.
Yes.
And so does something like that find its way into a development agreement with the town?
No, it's too minor. It's just part of the development process.
And the same would hold true for the
Yes.
southern? And then my second thought, which I think is going to be common to both cases, is that, you know, this is complicated, being Plat 106 and having its own board. That's an alternate use of 15026 in particular that should not bear any adverse effect on those adjacent stakeholders, you know, albeit they're across an alleyway. But for us to even try and sort out the refuse side of this and the utilities side of it, I think is disingenuous to those stakeholders. And so I think Plat 106 needs to deal with Plat 106 trash internally to Plat 106. I'm willing to be talked off of that, but I've got that as a big sticking point as we continue on. Commissioner Schlossberg.
Question is, the applicant might be better to answer this one, but it goes back to when it was first brought up in November. And it's on the plans on both of them, but it's not mentioned here, this home of the aged for both of these. So is this some type of senior living or for both projects?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Schlossberg, this particular project, the cottages, is not targeting any particular demographic. So no, it's not for.
Okay. What on the plan right here, it's a home of the aged. It says it.
Oh, good reading.
So it's on the. I'm just saying it's on the plan. So on the right hand side of the. Right there. Over to the far right, project type in bold.
Okay. Yeah, that's obviously an error.
Commissioners, Commissioner Koposetic?
Are these designated for sale or are they rentals?
Mr. Chairman, I believe these are going to be individually titled. Each of the, as I was saying, with the row of homes further to the north, they're going to be individually platted. So I think there will be fee simple lots. I'll have the applicant correct me otherwise, but we've moved forward with the idea that this is, they're going to be sold.
Commissioner Sviam?
Well, 4-bedroom units. Is that correct? Is that correct? They're all upstairs.
Right.
So I assume that this is not home of the aged.
No.
So family, perhaps. There's no playground area, right? There's no place for kids to play, no green space or desertscape at all. I think that's a real problem as far as I'm concerned with having this built there, as well as the design of these buildings. I realize we're on the applicant's objective is to create some affordable housing, but I really strongly object to the east side and west side, how they look. I think it's very problematic, whether there's 4 feet separation between these buildings or 40 feet. There should be more, and maybe this is out of the zoning, it's not part of the zoning, I understand that, but there should be more attention given to how the outside of these buildings are built, how they look, and the maintenance of these buildings over time is 4-bedroom rentals. So those, I have a strong objection to how they've been designed. I think as well with the setback of 4 feet, as we're seeing in LA right now, that there should be more separation, and I don't think the fire department has voiced any opinion on these yet, from what I gathered anyway.
Yeah, typically at this stage when the fire department is included in the routing during the staff review, and they had no comment at this point.
Well, he wants
other than-
feedback, so
right,
I think
right.
these are worthy of consideration.
Right.
And is this the time to get into, I mean, how deep in the weeds are we getting? Are we getting
Well,
are we
I
gonna
think-
get a
So I think
presentation?
we'll get a presentation on the other application. So any comments specific to, that might be site-specific to these parcels now, and then we'll pick the others up, and then we'll kind of tie it all back together at the end.
Okay. Specific to these, I don't understand why, to piggyback on Commissioner Sviam's comment, I don't understand why they wouldn't just be attached and eliminate the small side yards. I also, I'm concerned with the criteria. They can't be detrimental to public health and safety, but there's 0 side yard or 4-foot side yard on the alley. People driving in and out from the alley where the garages are on to the main alley, the existing alley, to get to one of the streets, there is no room to see what's coming down the alley, and you're going to have 10 families driving down that main alley to get to El Pueblo or Glenbrook or whatever the east-west streets are. So that's a problem. And I don't know, what are the dimensions of these lots? Are they 25 by 50 to get to 1250?
They're each, I don't know the exact dimensions, but they're each about 1,125 square feet. 25, okay. Do you know the dimensions approximately? 25 feet. 20, okay, thank you, 25 by 50. Yeah.
And so why couldn't you, you're looking for suggestions because I think the way it's laid out is a problem. Why couldn't you re-subdivide the lots and make them 20 feet wide, attach the units, and that'll give you 20 feet clearance so that somebody can see what's coming down the alley? Or go 22 feet wide, and then you have 12 feet of clearance, whatever it is, but somebody's got to be able to see what is coming down the alley. Those vehicles are, it's going to be bumper cars. So that's my, and I don't have a problem with attaching the units rather than, yeah. And I think it's safer, yeah, from the fire standpoint too. So those are my comments for what it's worth.
Commissioner DePaul?
Yeah, I would like more clarity on trash management. I'm a little confused by that. But I have a question relating to Lot 18 and 19. That mixed-use building that is sitting behind it, was that approved through a special use permit also?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner DePaul, what's existing right there right now, the pharmacy, that was not approved through a special use permit. That's a by right use. So,
It's a pharmacy
yeah, so
and
it's not entirely accurate mixed use. Well, I mean, the nature of the building might be mixed use, but
there are some dwelling units there too, right? Some residential units.
Chair, Commissioner Paul, yes, the special use permit did approve residential on the second floor of that building several years
Okay.
ago, yes.
So someone in the future could take that building and do whatever else they want with it without the,
this one here is as long as it's consistent with the CC zoning district.
right.
And the special use permit that John just corrected me with, it would carry with the land.
So that's a pharmacy now. Is there,
The first
are
floor.
there any kind of hazardous compounding activities going on there or for a pharmacy?
There have been none that have been brought to our attention. No violations, no, I'm not sure
Well, not
what
a
impacts it.
violation, but some
Right.
pharmacies have compounding rooms,
Right.
hazardous compounding rooms where they mix up drugs for use in the elderly communities here in town or whatever. Are they doing, is that activity happening at this pharmacy?
I am not aware of any.
Okay. That's another concern of mine. That would mean that there's some kind of an exhaust system that may be putting out fumes or something hazardous. We would need to look into that and make sure of it as well, because you have two dwelling units right behind it. And that was just my question about that.
That's more of a good neighbor question, because ASHRAE 170 wouldn't come into play, being an unlicensed pharmacy by your definitions, but point taken nonetheless. Commissioner Corey?
Yes, well, I understand we're trying to maximize the value of what you get on this lot here. But I think the point about there's 4 bedrooms and there's a tandem garage, so it sounds like there will be families there. And I could see the tandem garage could become an issue because most likely a family with 4 bedrooms is gonna have 2 cars that they'll use regularly. So I think that's something to consider. If there's 1 car that's in the back, those 2 cars are gonna be used all the time. So that could present a problem with cars being parked on the road there. Sometimes those types of garages are used for storage in the back and only 1 car gets used. So that's just something that was on my mind. And then in the image that you're showing, you mentioned the balconies, let's say A, B, C, and D. The balconies are on the north side. If you go up a little bit to the top of the page there, yeah, right where the cottages, A, B, C, and D.
Right.
So the balconies are on the north side, and that would be what's looking at that residential property.
Correct.
Okay, so those are the little squares, and then on the bottom, those are the yards.
Correct, patios, yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Commissioner Corrigan?
So I noticed in the analysis by the staff that item number 2, the balconies actually overhang the property line. Can you explain a little more detail about that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Corrigan, particularly for what's labeled as Lot A here, it appears the balcony, although I'm not sure if it's entirely clear here, but balconies basically are not allowed to overhang a property line, whether it's 1 feet or 2 feet. So that is a design concern. That's why the tightness of this setup here, particularly to the north, might create some accessibility issues, especially for like larger fire trucks. So it is a concern for accessibility for emergency vehicles and trash pickup if that applies here.
Okay, thank you.
Farhad, 2 more specific to these parcels and Plat 106. What would the commensurate residential zoning for us be at this density and with these setbacks? Or what's the most limiting of those 2?
Mr. Chairman, well, it would be a, with the types of minimum setbacks shown here, and the density, probably a multifamily designation anywhere between R2 to R5, but yeah, probably closer to R5.
And then the other one specific to these parcels, how do you treat open space requirements in a plat like this? Does the open asphalt of the common lot count as open space, or are we only calculating, what's left of non, the non-parceled
Right.
zones?
Right, Mr. Chairman, so the ordinance doesn't address open space requirements in that terminology, but there are some landscaping requirements typically for, say, if this were a subdivision, or if the applicant was proposing a subdivision with this type of housing type, then there would be a minimum open space requirement. I don't quite remember what that formula is off the top of my head, but in this case, the property is already platted, or I should say, Plat 106, obviously, by, is already platted. But
I guess that's where I wanted to go with it, is I understand that by right, that open space calculation doesn't come in because of the legacy platting, but when we consider this type of alternate use of the underlying zoning, I just wonder if it's something that we shouldn't consider as a town, as a commission, to fold that into the equation, right? I mean, if we're gonna change that use type, we probably ought to start bringing some of the rest of that with it, because to Commissioner Sviam's point, there's no place for a swing set. Well, the reason there's no place is because it's a commercial plat. And to Commissioner Kovacevic's point, which, I personally, I think maybe he's exaggerating a little bit, but I get it. There should be some AASHTO triangle considerations to those T intersections, and that's a given when you start talking about that ratio of open space to built, whereas here, the underlying zoning, is not to have tandem parked cars and 4 bedrooms worth of kids, or three bedrooms worth of kids. So I think it's probably really important for us to consider that, not related to this case, but in the more macro sense going forward. And I think as we, work our way towards a recommendation on this, I think that's going to weigh pretty heavily for me. So, Commissioners, anything else on this one, or should we move to the other? Commissioner Kovacevic?
Yeah, I do have one more question. What's the height of the cottages?
The maximum is 25 feet, which is the maximum for the CC zoning district.
Right, and I thought I saw the maximum height was 23 feet in CC zoning. I could be wrong too. I get lost in the zoning codes, but I thought I saw a maximum height was 23 feet.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain it's 25 feet, but I can double check that for you.
Okay.
25
and if he wanted to go up, could he do that in a PAD, if he wanted a height?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Kovacevic, if these properties met the prerequisites for that type of designation, PAD, which it doesn't, yeah, he may do that,
Okay, but it
but
doesn't
they don't
meet
meet the minimum lot size requirements for a PAD.
Thank you.
And since he went there, I'll chase the rabbit a little further. What did we say that the separation is if we don't go to a common demising wall? It's a 4 foot between the buildings? 6 is minimum, right? And in either case, my question is at 25 feet, and by all accounts, the elevations show that it's a completely pitched roof, where's the condenser gonna go and still allow for all the clearances by electric code to access meters and condensers and so on? They're going in the back.
Mhm.
Yeah, probably not. Speaker cards? All right. Okay. How many cards do we have specific to this agenda item, Paula?
For number 8, there are 3.
And for the second, for agenda item 9,
Looks like 2.
are they common?
Yes.
Who are they?
Larry Myers, Barry McBride, and Crystal Kavanaugh.
Larry, Barry, Crystal, if we give you 6 minutes and 1 trip to the mic, does that work for you guys? Yeah? Okay, let's do that. So let's go ahead with your second presentation, and then we'll open up the speakers.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so Mr. Chairman, as I said, this second one was presented before you back in November of 2025 for the benefit of Commissioner Corrigan, and maybe as a refresher, I'll go through some of this without sounding too repetitive with some of them, because many of the introductory slides are the same, but the zoning is the same as in the previous case, CC, same site, obviously. This is a special use permit to allow 4 multifamily buildings, 4 different multifamily buildings containing 3 dwelling units each on 4 adjacent 1,250 square foot parcels. And I might have skipped over right by the slide, but just to clarify, so obviously the subject parcels are outlined in red, but in relation to the cottages, they are fairly close to the subject property here. So 2 of those cottages would be going over here, and directly across would be the multifamily dwellings. And so the applicant has provided a rendering here, as well as a preliminary site plan. These buildings will also be 2 stories. Each of the 4 buildings will have 3 units. The largest of the units will be on the 2nd floor. That would be about 966 square feet. The first floor would feature 2 much smaller floor plans. So the footprint is about 966 square feet. About a third of that would be the 1-bedroom unit that you see here to the north, and then 2-bedroom unit adjacent to that. The 2nd floor would be accessible via a stairway. There would be no elevator accesses as you see here. I know that question was brought up previously, and I'll go over some of those comments that were brought up in November's meeting. Again, the gaps or the setbacks in between the buildings. The widest setback between the 2 buildings would be for the 2 middle units. That's about 8 feet as shown here, and then 4 feet for the units on the outside between the 2 adjacent units. Again, in looking at the general plan, this does offer a mix of a broad range of units, and again, as far as the land use is concerned, staff has no issues. I should mention, as I mentioned before in the November meeting, the target demographic, the market here, is for the age, is for the elderly. Now, I do want to make clear, and I was clear in the staff report, this is not being proposed as an assisted living facility. These would be rental units, and the applicant or the owner may be providing some concierge services such as like trash pickup or deliveries of some type or transportation, but it will not be characterized as an assisted living facility. So looking at the commission's comments from November, I've mentioned them here. As I mentioned earlier, there will be a staircase access to the second floor, but there will be no elevator. I know that was a concern with regards to, especially in regards to the fact that this is targeting the aged. There were few details that could be shared at the time about the leasing arrangement between the owner and the tenants. The applicant is ready to provide more information about that. The tight separation between the buildings that was mentioned with the previous case as well. There is no option for private parking in this case. All parking is provided in the common area. That was a concern that was brought up. There was a little detail about the outdoor lighting, and the color rendering provided minimal detail as far as the materials and colors, but kind of gave a general idea. So as with the, just as the previous case, where again staff supports the use for this area because it's so underutilized, but we would also in this case recommend some modifications to address some of the concerns that Commission brought up last time. So I'll conclude with that.
Farhad, similar question related to access rights from a legacy route crossing parcel 39 and 37 and potentially 51. It looks like there's a walking path that extends from the municipal curb cut at the crossing there on kind of a, let's call it a 30-degree angle to the northwest. Any concerns or reservations with that? It just looks like a pretty well-traveled path.
And just to be clear, you're talking about
No, so
No, I
right
beg
where
your
your
pardon.
cursor is, there's draw a 30-degree angle southeast to northwest.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
That's coming from a city ADA walk across there. Just looks like that's very well traveled.
Right.
For the javelinas, or is that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if that's just like a path that's been beaten over time, but yeah, I don't have information on that. It certainly doesn't appear on the plat as like any kind of easement, or it's just been, I guess, established over the past
just for
50 years. Yeah.
Well, yeah, my question is, it's established.
Yeah.
I'm curious what the implications of that might be if someone took offense to building on those parcels, but. Commissioners, site-specific comments to this development. Commissioner Corey was first.
Oh, thank you. I guess my primary concern, you weren't here last time we talked about this, is why was this decided to be a home of the aged? And if there's no elevator, if the aged are going to be walking up a flight of stairs to the second floor, I would like to hear a little bit about that. Like, what was the thought process behind that? Is that A, an opportunity to change it from home of the aged to maybe other residential, or put in some sort of elevator or something so people can get up there? That's my primary concern.
And we'll let the applicant address that.
Sounds good.
Commissioner Sviam.
I think the chair made an excellent point before on the previous one, and that is if you're going to tag along with a residential use in a commercial property, you should be bringing forward residential subdivision type of requirements, whether it's whatever they may hold, but there should be much more consideration made for this as a residential property and not just a converted commercial property. I think there's a lot of things that are missing.
Commissioner Corrigan.
I do share some of the same concerns about the lack of elevator for an elderly home and lack of private parking. and actually agree with the 6 stipulations or analysis of the staff. And this has been, discussed before, but somewhat new to me. So, yeah, those are all issues that I see.
Commissioner DePaul.
Yeah, during your review of these requests, do we consult with the fire department at all?
Mr. Chairman, during the review, as I mentioned earlier, they are included in the review process, but they did not call out any violations of the fire code, at least none that stood out at this stage of development.
So this particular one has been reviewed, and they had no concerns with the
Both have
space between? Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kovacevic.
So how many units are in this building again?
So 4 buildings, 3 units in each building, 12 altogether.
12, yeah, on 5,000 square foot lot, 5,000 square feet of a lot. The 4 lots combined are 5,000 square feet.
Right.
So that's about 96 units an acre. Give or take. The maximum density in our code is 25 in the zoning ordinance. And then we moved heaven and earth to get to 45. It's a non-starter to me. I don't know how we get there from here. And I don't understand. I mean, let's have some uniformity. I'm like staff. I'm open to residential here. I think commercial, it's been vacant for so long. Commercials just has an inherent problem. 500 feet, 1,000 feet north of here is parkland. How far east, maybe half a mile east, is reservation land. You don't have population density to support commercial here. So if we're going to use the land, residential makes sense. There's something that works, but not 96 units an acre. And, if he's got control of the whole thing, let's do something with some uniformity. And those are my comments.
All right, commissioners. Paula, let's go ahead and open the public hearing. I think what we should probably do is anybody who's specific to agenda item 8 first, and then we'll do, is the applicant, did you want to give a presentation ahead, or did you want to wait until after public comment? Okay.
Okay.
So Paula, as he's making the play up, we'll do 8, then 9, and then the combo comments of those last 3 cards.
I'll hang on to the keyboard in case we need to flip through slides.
My name is Wilson Ejim, and I'm the developer. And again, I want to apologize. Okay, thank you. I want to apologize for November. I thought it was all moved to January. That's why I left, but I didn't know that some of them was held back, so I'm very sorry for that. But the project, of course, is challenging, and I have worked with the POA for the last 2 years trying to figure out the best way to address the concerns. And at the initial time, my proposal was slightly different, but parking seems to be an issue. So that was why I decided to, okay, let me provide single family that will have tandem garages. So that was what drove to that need. But in the process of that, I thought about, okay, what varieties of housing need can I meet? So that brings into the home of the aged, because I know there are some people that couldn't afford a nursing home or assisted living. It doesn't mean they're on wheelchairs, it's just that maybe they're retired and they don't have that much income. So then I could provide a home for those 55 and older. They don't necessarily have to have an elevator, they still walk around, but the income has dropped. So we could provide additional services. but I will talk more about that. But some of the issues that I encountered with the parking space, I had to address. Now, I just got the staff report today, so some of the things I'm going to tell you it's not on the drawing yet, but getting, because of the holidays, we just go back to the office, and I here today, I saw the report. I said, well, I'm here to solve problems. That's what we do. So, but what I've decided was lot 18, 20, and lot A, that is east of the alley, that we can give up to provide additional parking space. So if you take others along that eastern line, that will open up the question talking about visibility, about somebody not seeing other things coming, but also give us parking along that area, which will alleviate some of the parking issues we have, and open up that alley. So then each of the units have 10 feet backyard. It's not much, but it's still enough to have kids play and a family gathering. We have done that in Vegas. It works. A small lot like this. I still have a property in Vegas that's just about that size with 10-foot backyard, and it works very well by Lenore Homes. So then when it comes to the trash collection, there are some trash collection areas right now. Meeting with the Pueblo board, we decided that we'll be working with John, the other developer, to expand the existing collection center to accommodate more, and then we share the cost. So, and that was some of the ideas that brought up, and I'm very comfortable with that. So they have some piece of land there that we can expand it, make it much bigger, so people can have a central collection area for the trash over there. Now, the balcony issue on lot 25, that's where you have the A, B, C, and D. Those balconies can be eliminated. These are all in conceptual stages, so the actual, as I go through site planning, some of this is going to be resolved. But for privacy issues, the balconies that overlook those areas will be eliminated. Okay, parking issues, we're giving up almost 3 lots that border the alley, so that would have to eliminate the constraint in that area and also provide additional parking. Now, when it comes to the open space, it's part of overall master plan. So I would think that they will also be able to utilize the same public space that the residents right now use, because they're part of that community. There are small lots that are trying to do something separate for them. There is no space for that. But I did provide 10-foot backyard so that way they could have a place for the kids. But my envision, or what I envision, is more younger couples or older couples. Because number one, older couples have the clinic close by, so they're going to want to make use of that. Younger couples, maybe those that are just trying to start off. They want somewhere they can, cheaper, they can just go live, and when they start having kids, they may sell and go somewhere bigger. So the market target I'm reaching are those that need a way to get in and be able to really sustain life or living. So that is the market target. Now, when it comes to the home of the age, my vision is if somebody is using the upper level and have an issue, maybe develop some conditions that you can no longer climb stairs, those are wide enough for stair lift. Stair lift is a chair that you hook up to the rail, takes you up there. But I'm 64. I walk up the stairs all the time. 55-year-old person that is healthy would love to go up and down. It's part of exercising yourself. But for any reason, they have issues. The stair lift solves our problem. We don't need an elevator to go upstairs, But because there are other ways to get up there without using an elevator. But those that may be older that don't want to go upstairs have the ground unit at the lower level to meet their needs. So that is some of the thinking. Now the building on the home of the edge portion is all sprinkler system. They all fire sprinklers. So the fire issue there is resolved. And normally most fire trucks want at least 150 feet reach. And it's still close by where they can reach to the furthest part of the building. So those things are put into consideration. And again, my whole idea on this is how can I use that property to serve the needs of the community or the needs that I have right now. And I think affordable housing is something that everyone that's a need across the whole nation to provide affordable housing, whether for seniors or for starters. And this is targeting these are the market targets I'm trying to serve. Okay.
Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
So is for sale housing or rental housing?
Oh, the single family, those will be sold, but the home of the age, we will maintain that. The reason being, what I envision is if these people are there, will provide services like home care. You don't have to be, there are businesses that will send people to help them out. Food, if they can cook for themselves, you have people that bring in food. Those businesses have contacted, they exist, they're local, that will serve them. The home care will come and help you clean, go to a grocery, clean, do whatever they can for you. If you need to go to the hospital, they have the medical rides that will take you there. So those ones will provide services. Now, it will be as needed, because if it's not assisted living, it's just independent living, but provide some support services.
Commissioner DePaul.
So this centralized trash area that you're collaborating with John on, will the church, the pharmacy, and the convenience store use that same central trash?
I don't know whether they're using the same now. I would think so, but it's being used right now. All I'm doing is, okay, I'm providing additional trash, so I will have to add more, and there is space there they've given us to expand the trash collection center. And I think it's much easier than trying to provide individual ones. So meeting with the board, I'm willing to do that, work to expand what we have right now.
And that is this one that is displayed here, sitting in the middle of the parking lot?
Yeah.
So residents would have to come across that parking lot to toss their trash?
Well, the thing about it is the residences have a choice, because they have garages. If they want to put their trash can in the garage and roll it once a while, well, they don't want to bring in a trash truck. They cannot afford to do that because there's no trash service right now. I would think if I live there, everyone is taking their trash there, I'll roll mine down there and put it away. But for the home of the age, the home care that comes in and clean their homes once a week or twice a week, we do that for them. But given the constraints of the space, I think it's more practical to take the trash to where we have the dumpsters.
Affordable housing without a concrete trash management, leaves a big question mark for me, okay? Because that area too, as Clayton was saying, that's the marching grounds for javelinas, okay? They run around there, and I can just imagine trash coming across that the back breaks and they just walk away, They drag it on the floor, it breaks, and they walk away. Okay. Trash management is, there needs to be some clarity on that because it can get out of hand very quickly.
That is another possibility. On that alley, right behind the drugstore, the owner of the drugstore have a trash collection, private one there, okay? Now, since I'm giving up the lots along that alley, it gives me another opportunity to create my own trash collection. You know, I'm trying not to put more traffic on that alley, you know, because it was brought up in our conversation. But I have the option of putting my own trash collection there, so it's more closer to the resident.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Corey.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. So I just wanted to clarify, you mentioned, I mean, it's pretty significant that you mentioned, I believe it was unit 19,
Yeah.
20, and A. So you would nix those.
Yeah, what I'm doing is, I think it's 18.
I think it was maybe 19 on that when I saw that.
Oh, okay, that's the one that's
On the
east of
left.
the alley. That's 19, 20, and A.
Yes.
Okay, so those ones that border the alley, I'm willing to let go. So then I'll use that to provide additional parking. They're 50 feet long, so that'll give at least 4 to 5 parking spaces. So I have potential up to 12 to 15 parking spaces there. Now, if we take portion of that for the trash collection and since it has an exit, so I think a dump truck can easily come pick it up and continue, because the turnaround takes a lot of space. So we can put one there, they pick it up, and then continue, drive out the other way. So that'll solve it.
So you're thinking it's 4 to 5 spaces per lot if you were to
Yes,
remove the building?
yeah,
Okay.
they're 9 foot wide, so we could get up to 4 or 5 or more.
Okay. So that would significantly reduce the, what did you say earlier? It was 90-something dwelling units. So what does that bring it down to?
That was just the home for the, that was just the home for the aged. That had nothing to do with, you combine them, what do you have? You have 10, 14, and then the 12 is 26 on 25,000, no, not 20, 22,000 feet, so about a half hour. You're still at 52 for the whole site.
Okay.
What I envision on that is, when I did some of for the assisted living before, they don't mind to keep their costs down. They don't mind sharing room, you know. So that is, once you're in a fixed financial income. Now, I'm not talking about those that can afford it. I'm talking about those that need a place to stay and cannot afford to pay assisted living.
Yes.
And those are willing to share rooms. So now, even though I have 3 units there, one is a 1-bedroom that's at the back. If you want to be by yourself. If the other one say, hey, I can pay the whole unit with 2 beds, fine. Or maybe I don't mind sharing my room. They have the individual rooms, they have the individual bath, they just have a common area. And when they have a cluster like that, they love it, because they're able to make friends than staying by themselves, you know? Because they're not living with young people, they're not living with their grandkids. They're living with other elderly people. And if they could have a roommate, they're more lively. They enjoy that better than just being stuck out by themselves.
Yes. No, thank you for explaining that. And I mean, we appreciate that you're bringing this to us and that you're looking at developing that area. We're just trying to make sure that it makes sense. And the other comment I wanted to make to address what some of my colleagues said was the kind of the elevations and look and feel. So you've got different sites. Would you consider bringing elements in that would kind of make some consistency, so this area has some uniformity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Very open.
Commissioner Schlossberg.
So I'm going to go back to the home of the aged again here, so I can be clear on what I'm thinking or seeing. So this is going to be a mandate, 55 plus, nobody under 55
Yes,
can
sir.
live there. And you're obviously representing someone, so who is going to manage this entity once it's completed?
Well, we will maintain that, you know. Basically, there'll be a management maintaining that section. It's not for sale, it's for, you know, we'll be leased out to these people, and we will provide services.
So would it be subsidized by in any way?
No, except if there's any tax credit from the city, something. You know, if that, I've never looked into that. But if there is incentives that could help, then it will help to subsidize the rent. You know, so right now I've not thought that through about subsidizing the rent.
So by designating it as 55 plus, there are special incentives and, okay.
Yes.
That's kind of where I was going. All right, thank you.
So the follow-on to your inquiry, Commissioner, is, if I am interpreting correctly, we're talking about renting beds and not necessarily renting units by...
No. It's the units. But what I'm saying is, some of them, you know, from experience, they don't mind sharing an apartment. So basically, let's just assume, because you have placement companies. They say, Mr. Jones, this is X amount of dollars. Well, I don't have that much. Do you mind sharing with somebody? And that way, both of them can share because they have a common kitchen, a common living room, a common, and they're all full apartments. But somebody may say, look, I'm moving with my wife, I don't want to share. Or I'm okay, I could take care of that, and they stay by themselves.
So you will hold one lease, but the residents of your property might seek roommates through a third-party platform? Is that what we're saying?
No. What we're going to do, we are going to manage the entire unit. So if you're going to bring a roommate, it's something that we work together and find a roommate that both of you agree to stay and manage that. Because that is, the essence of managing it is because we're providing other services. They may need occupational therapy. They may need physical therapy. They may need speech therapy. It based on the needs. So since they are seniors, we want to make sure that we're taken care of, we're able to provide services that may need.
Very good. John, can I ask you, are we broaching into community residents with all of these services and components to this dwelling unit?
Chairperson, that's certainly been on our mind as we've listened to him and what he's proposing to do and how he is structuring it. Right now, it's still individual units, and so each unit could have.
It seems like a lot of good ideas culminate in a community residence, is the way I'm interpreting this.
Yeah. Again, it's been close to that, and it's what we've been listening to, and so far, from my perspective, he hasn't quite gotten there. They have been still individual apartment units for rent that on the side have had some services, but not to the level of a residence that's operating as one facility.
Okay.
It was something we discussed with him earlier, is the idea of really turning it into an institutional use. So it is more clearly providing those services, but not as a community residence, but more as the nursing home's an overstatement the other way. But if you understand kind of that, you got 10 or more people in that congregate type setting. But he didn't want to go there for various reasons. So. Yeah.
Okay. I understand. Thank you. Commissioner, did you have one, Commissioner Corrigan? No? Very good. All right. Commissioners, any last chance? We'll call you back up, Mr. Ejim, after the public hearing. Paula, let's go ahead and open that hearing, and we'll call on agenda item number 8, specific speakers.
Okay, there are 3 speakers. The first speaker is Larry Myers. The second speaker is Barry McBride, and the third speaker is Crystal Kavanaugh.
Okay, and they're speaking on both 8 and 9 then, as they...
Well, Barry McBride is number 8, Larry Myers and Crystal are both.
Let's bring up Mr. McBride then
Okay.
first, so we'll try and tease out 8 versus 9.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I apologize for my appearance, a hat on the inside. If my dad saw me, I'd be doing push-ups right now. But in my appearance, I've been in cancer treatment today. For the top of my head, I have to have a hat on. And Mr. Wesley pointed out this is the first time he's ever seen me without a necktie, and he's absolutely correct, so I do apologize. Ladies and gentlemen, I just have a couple of comments, if I may. First of all, I am a board member of Track 106. And every so often, it seems as though there's in a presentation that we're just not involved. And I have to say that as a board member, we are very involved with the operation of our track. We've always considered it to be commercial, and we have put hours into this proposed development. And we really do like Dr. Ejim as a gentleman. He's a fine man. There is no question about that. But I want to point out the fact that a perceived underdevelopment or a lack of development does not open the window to change a commercial property into a residential property. Already, the pharmacy has a special use permit, residential below, above with pharmacy below. There's also a special use permit on the southeast corner of the property, and there has been approved true residential development on the northeast corner. And so we have to express the amount of stress that comes to the board when we protect the other commercial owners as it relates to a mixed use of truly a commercial development. So while we do respect the importance of developing property, I purchased 2 buildings. I've got over $1 million invested in my 2 buildings that I purchased in good faith that those would be commercial properties in a commercial area, and I do use them for a commercial purpose. So I present to the board and I ask for consideration for the future possibly, as you see the stress that's involved trying to force residential into commercial. Is it such that the council might want to consider the respect of commercial in commercial and look at development of residential in residential areas, properties that have not yet been developed? I thank you so much for your time. Good evening.
Well, rarely would I say I couldn't have said it better. But I can't say it better than that. So on the 26th of January, I'm supposed to go to a meeting on which I'm a newly minted Economic Development Committee member. Economic development. Let's talk about this whole plat globally. And let's talk about the common language that I think Mr. McBride just referred to, that constantly comes up whenever there's some change in zoning that we want to do. And I want you to take your zoning hats off, and I want you to think about planning. Because planning doesn't involve something 5 minutes from now, 10 months from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because I've been doing it for 43 years in this town, or trying to. So economic development requires planning, something we don't have in this town. We have somebody like Mr. Ejim, who's probably a fine man, buys up a bunch of property, tries to shoehorn it, get y'all to change the zoning on it, and then shoehorn something in it that wasn't designed to be there. It was designed to be commercial. And as the years have gone by, we have rezoned away our economic development opportunities. Why do I say that? Because in 1999, I had to stand before a whole bunch of people just like you and tell them that the Target Plaza was a bad idea. The math didn't work. The place was designed for a corporate center to employ 200 or 300 people to create economic development activity in this town. Got the same blank stares then as I got now. Oh, the Target's going to be great. And here we are. Here we are. We had to rezone one end of it because it's failing. Because it was always going to fail. Because it wasn't meant to be zoned as commercial. It was industrial, corporate center. Now, just because this and this language is constantly used, staff supports the proposed use as an infill opportunity for Plat 106, which is vastly underutilized. Underutilized why? Because nobody plans. Nobody works at anything. So if I'm going to sit on this committee on the 26th with a bunch of other smart people and try and do some economic development, I'm going to sit here and forever sit here and tell you that every time some developer who wants you to save his investment, that's all this is. The same thing that the Sandor guys are wanting you to do. They wanted you to save their investment. They bought the Target Plaza from Barclay Holdings for $14.4 million. They knew it would be a failed commercial center, and now they want to throw up a bunch of crappy apartments. I'm looking at this the same way, only on a smaller scale. It's a chunk of land. What can I use that land for? Could I have a corporate headquarters there, maybe 100 people? Could the rest of the commercial people out there decide to sell all of their property to one entity and we end up with 100 employees? Maybe. But if you don't work at it, you'll never get it. And nobody ever works at it. They just rezone for crap. This, to me, is crap. Sorry, Mr. Ejim. And I don't buy the baloney, oh, I'm going to bring in business. And the more people we have, the more business we'll have. I got news for you. Another 20, 30 people in this town spending a few dollars in a restaurant somewhere for sales tax revenue is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about 200-300 employees with families and kids going into school that's failing because we don't have any young people. And he's going to build a home for the aged. That's what we need, another one of those in Fountain Hills. So from a global perspective, forget the rezoning. Don't rezone any more stuff because it's vastly underutilized. Stuff was vastly underutilized in 1999, in 2000, in 2010. But if you don't try to work at it to fill it with something that actually means something rather than meaningless apartments. Apartments are not economic development. They don't generate squat. And so from a global perspective, just give me one more minute. From a global perspective, every time one of these rezones, SUPs, where it takes away land that was supposed to be used for something, when the master planners thought this place out, and you rezone it to build an apartment, think about what you're taking away. You just took away the ability to actually plan. And you just took away the town's economic development possibilities. Because every time you take one of these little places, little one here, little one there, you've taken away another possibility for something that actually really matters. And this, sorry, matters to you financially, doesn't matter squat to me. And I don't think it matters squat to 55% of the voters of this town. And that's what I want to say globally about 8 and 9. Neither one means anything in the grand scheme of things in Fountain Hills. Thank you.
Hello. I'm not going to talk globally. I'm actually not going to address the whole commercial aspect either because they both have done that. But my radar goes up on a few of these things. On number 8, for example, overall it's pretty unattractive for a single-family residential area in a scenic community. Number 1, that's a concern of mine. Commissioner Corey mentioned, you know, obviously it's probably going to be a family, and then it's going to be parking concerns. There are 4 bedrooms in 1,325 square feet. It's quite small. Like you also mentioned, nowhere for small children to play. So this leads me to worry. What 4 adults will reside here? And I've heard the term affordable housing a few times. Now, the developer, and all developers, need to make money. So what's affordable, for one thing? They're going to have to get their money back. Then they sell to who? And then they're going to want their money back. And so without government subsidies, affordable housing doesn't really exist during these economic times. So that worries me. And so he's talking about solving our needs. I'm not really thinking those are our needs. And then it bounces me over to number 9, the home for the aged. So this was my question too. So what is aged? So is this going to be an over 55 community? Can you just designate a few apartments as over 55, or is that some sort of discrimination? I don't know. I know communities I've been in gated communities, they'll have an over 55 section. I just don't know the rules on that, for one. And so that bothered me. And I'm going to say, I actually have talked to Dr. Ejim 2 or 3 years ago when we were worried when he was buying up all these parcels that had been unused for years. And of course, you know, my major concerns at the time, and I was worried that's what was going to happen. So I actually called him, and he eventually called me back. And what he told me was his goals were group homes for the elderly. He did say group homes, though. And that kind of leads me to something else I heard here. So he keeps saying home for the aged. And then he's talking about home care. And then he's talking about services. And to me, he's talking in terms of this building as a unit, almost like a nursing home, but it isn't a nursing home. And so those were my other concerns that you guys did bring up. It's sounding a little like community services. And my notes on the side before I even knew, how do you get to the second floor if you're disabled or have a bad ankle or carrying your groceries? Because there is no elevator. That was my question. Is there one? And you guys answered that. There was not one. And another thing is, when you asked something about a development contract, you know, would this be stipulated in it? And then I think, John, you might have said it was a minor issue. And no. Everything better be stipulated if something like this is going to go forward. And I truly think something like this shouldn't go forward, because you also use the word affordable for this development also. So I'm worried, I'm suspicious, and that's all I got to say at this point. I think there's way too many unanswered questions, and whether it should even be changed at all for zoning. Thanks.
No more cards?
No, Chair.
Any written comments that came in late that we might not have seen?
No, Chair.
Thank you, Paula. All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Mr. Ejim, you'd like to address any of the comments made from the public tonight?
Thank you. Well, she mentioned that she's spoken to me. I know I spoke to quite a few over the phone. I can't recall that. But one thing I do know, I've never used the word group home. The POA president is here, never approaching for group home. John, all the time we discuss, never talk about group home. Yeah, I've talked about a way to help an assisted living form. Then I look at what the code allowed, I searched that with John, and said, okay, what I'm trying to do, this is the right use for that. So that's how. So I work with the city and the community all these years to make sure that I define where I'm going and make sure it fall within the premises of the zoning ordinance. So what I'm doing is exactly for the home of the aged and trying to find a way that I could bring support services to meet their needs.
Yeah. Commission, open the table to discussion. Let's kind of tease these two apart at this point. So let's work with agenda item 8, which is the plat 106 single family residence first, and then we'll move on to agenda item 9 for discussion. So open floor, comments, clarifications needed from applicant or staff at this time. Commissioner Sviam.
With all due respect, this is, I have to look at both 8 and 9. This is, and I understand maybe protocol isn't the right way that I'm doing it, but this is so disjointed in my mind. I have a hard time tracking what is where anymore. I think that it's not very well thought out. There should be more central. If you want to do a development there, I think you need to look at more of a centralized building, whether it's mixed use or whatever. But this can't be. I don't believe the way you've got it set up is very attractive. I think that there's a very mysterious, cloudy business model going on with whatever the housing is going to be. I just think I'd feel very uncomfortable if I was a neighbor hearing a presentation like this and feeling very comfortable with what's going on in that location. I also agree. I think converting the commercial properties to residential, we did one a few months ago that I voted against. An office building is going to be converted to an apartment building. I agree, Mr. Myers, with your assessment that economic development is not necessarily residential housing. It has a lot to do with jobs being created and services being created. That's what belongs in these commercially zoned parcels. And we're making too many concessions and not looking at long-term from this perspective. I haven't been here 43 years, but I've done a lot over the years in this industry. And I've never felt I could bring something that is such or such small thinking of and just trying to throw things against the wall and hopefully something sticks. And I don't know if you bought the property or not. It's not ours to even look into. I don't really care. I think it's very poor planning. And in fact, I don't even care about how many units per acre when you're only putting up 25 units. It's irrelevant to me. It's just the way this is planned out with the alleyways, with no park space, with removing units and creating more parking. It doesn't deserve the hour we've taken, frankly. Unfortunately, we need to do better when you present these things. And this is, I think, very poorly designed, and I don't think it should have been even brought forward. But, so I can't support this, not at all.
Commissioner Corey.
I'm trying to remember our discussions. Did we ever talk about the commercial element on the first floor in this area? Because, you know, what's this?
Mr. Chairman,
Did that come up to the Planning and Zoning Commission? Other ways to design
in
this?
regards to particularly these two cases?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Corey, there was, I may have brought up the possibility, the applicant was thinking maybe one of the units on the ground floor can be used as an office for the, and this is in reference to the multifamily, for the homes for the aged. It could be used as an office for like administering, you know, trash pickup or
Yeah. Okay, because
some
yeah,
type of
because I mean,
services.
thank you.
But that would be compatible with the CC zoning district.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're hearing a lot tonight is, you know, we don't have a lot of this property left, so we're taking away the commercial aspect and just replacing it 100% with residential. But we've been in this plat before, and I think that southeast corner, we approved the commercial on the first floor and residential on the second. And that seems to be something that works well for us. And that could be something that we want to discuss moving forward, is to help appease the people that want to keep commercial there and keep that a vibrant commercial area, but with residential units on the top. So as we go forward, that might be something that we want to talk about.
Commissioners, last chance, comments on agenda item 8, single families. Commissioner Corrigan?
Chair, I just agree with the staff's report in basically rejecting the project as is for their concerns. I share all of their concerns, not just one or two. And I'll reiterate it again, that I don't think that's been addressed adequately. And I don't think this answers the overall problem that we have with commercial space. And I do agree with Commissioner Sevim that we should look at this differently rather than a special use permit. These concerns are staff identified, and when I see them highlight recommended rejection, I take that not lightly.
Commissioner Kovacevic?
Well, I am concerned that the Plat 106 itself doesn't support this project. I think this is a tough commercial site, and I think so I am open at looking at some sort of residential that might make sense. But again, Mr. O'Brien, it concerns me that you're not in support of it. And, but I have no interest in the home for the aged, putting 13 units on 5,000 square feet. And I think that this wasn't designed as a residential site, and a lot of modifications have to be made to provide for the health and safety of residents that might be living there. And I don't think any thought's been given to that.
All right, just final comments from me before we go to a vote on agenda item 8. These are really specific to Plat 106 and the application. I generally concur with the statements of the other commissioners and staff across the board, but I think I said this the last time we looked at a rezone within 106. It feels like 106 wants to go through a master plan as a plat. It feels like 106 needs a new vision for 106, but that's not ours to govern. We've routed through and approved 2 prior conversions. Yes, one was a mixed use, one was strictly residential with some pretty significant municipal improvements, civil improvements associated with it. I think we've levied a heavy enough hand in the conversion of Plat 106 without Plat 106 wanting to carry that through. And to carry that through, I believe you've got to master plan it. You can't have whatever that is, 160 parking spaces stuck in the middle of this thing, and us trying to arm wave infills and infills that just barely make sense if they do. So that's my thoughts related to 106. And then, again, I should bring this up later as we talk about discussion with staff, but I think I've learned the lesson this time around that as we look at these conversions, the general plan it's not an edict to convert it. There's those that would tell you that it is, but it's not. We need to really say convert it when it makes perfect sense to convert it. And that means, to me, we really start to take a look at that open space ratio, those setbacks, those densities, those things that are commensurate with what the underlying residential zoning would be if applied. And obviously, we're a long ways away from that here. So with that, I'm going to call for a motion, or if you guys allow me to do it, it's going to be a motion to deny. All right. With respect to agenda item 8, let me get the right language here. Maybe. Agenda item 8, request for special use permit to allow 10 single-family residential units on 6 parcels within Plat 106. Making the recommendation to council to deny on the basis of discussion had here this evening, inclusive of all staff comments as well.
Second.
All right, I've made the motion. Commissioner Sviam has seconded. Paul, let's go roll call.
Commissioner Corey?
Aye.
Commissioner Corrigan?
Aye.
Commissioner DePauw?
Aye.
Commissioner Kovacevic?
Aye.
Commissioner Schlossberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Sevim?
Aye.
Chair Gray?
Aye.
7-0.
Thank you, Paula. All right, and then on to agenda item 9. This is specific to the 4 multifamily buildings containing 3 dwelling units each on 4 adjacent 1,250 square foot parcels, otherwise known as Home for the Aged. Commission, any discussion amongst us for the applicant or staff ahead of a motion? Commissioner Sviam? Or are you guys just mics still on, or? That's my cue.
I was just going to second.
Oh, okay. Anything from you guys? You guys want me to make the motion? All right. Well, before I make the motion, agenda item 9 leaves itself open. Amongst all the the planning, underlying planning issues that I don't think that we have any ability to jump over here this evening, or even with modification. What I see, intentional or not, with agenda item 9 is a compartmentalization strategy to work around the community residence provision in our ordinance. I think that's something, I don't know what we do with that, between commission and staff, but something, certainly it's an angle we didn't consider. And I don't know that it's intentional here tonight, but that's what's possible. And so for that reason, along with just a general disposition that I don't think we can make this work, make this conversion work in that zoning on those parcels, I'm going to make a motion to forward a recommendation of denial to the council with respect to agenda item 9.
Second.
Motion made. Commissioner Sviam has seconded. Paula?
Commissioner Corey?
Aye.
Commissioner Corrigan?
Aye.
Commissioner DePauw?
Aye.
Commissioner Kovacevic?
Aye.
Commissioner Schlossberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Seaven?
Aye.
Chair Gray?
Aye.
7-0 deny.
Thank you, Paula. All right, agenda item number 10. John, this one is yours. Discuss and provide comments on the first draft of a new downtown overlay district.
If I can find it. I'm going past it. There you go. Okay. Chairman, Commissioners, we had this opportunity last month, but delayed it to this month. So the council has recently approved downtown strategy. The strategy calls for several items for staff to be working on over the coming months and couple of years to help improve the vibrancy and activity in the downtown area, trying to create more employment opportunities, mixed use, and better use and maintenance of vacant properties. As part of that, we are looking at the opportunity to update the zoning as it applies to the primary downtown area, in this case, the area that is the Plateau 8 area, so from Avenue of the Fountains on up here to La Montana, Saguaro, in this area. Currently, in the southern portion here over Plateau 8, it's mostly zone C2 with a little bit of C3, and has two overlays, the economic development overlay and the planned shopping plaza overlay. They do slightly different things, but overlap to some degree, and having the two of them is always a bit confusing in trying to describe to somebody what they can and can't do to the property. And so we're proposing that we replace those two existing overlays with one new overlay that we're calling the downtown overlay. And that overlay would divide the area into three sub-districts: the Innovation District, the Business District, and the Avenue District. The Avenue District is, as it says, right along the avenue with also part of Verde River. It keeps the uses pretty much the same as what is allowed today. I did note, however, that in the ordinance I had one typo, and it's the sections listed here, the ones that would be allowed. But the one restriction, or the one main change that is proposed, is that on the ground floor in these areas, we would restrict uses to active retail, restaurant type uses, ones that add to that vibrancy, and no longer allow office type uses on those ground floors. They would be allowed to stay as long as they're here, but when things become vacant and it's time to fill them, it would have to be with the new uses. It continues the same items that are in the current entertainment overlay in terms of allowing for outdoor seating and the associated entertainment that goes with that. Today, however, if you're familiar along the avenue, the room for those outdoor activities is somewhat limited, as we can see with this one example here by Sofritas. Nice to have that dining along the avenue, but the area left for the pedestrians is rather narrow. And so as a separate item, the staff has been proposing to the town council, and it'll be part of their budget considerations for the coming year, that we fund improvements along the avenue, so we take those curb lines and move them out to give us more space for those sidewalk type activities and bring that liveliness and vibrancy to the businesses, allow for more opportunities for the sidewalk cafes and room for the pedestrians. So another part of this is that currently, as you know, because we've had this discussion a few times, is that the current overlay district allows for a maximum of 8 units by right on second floors. We're always coming to you with special use permits. Special use permits create challenges in the development world. It's time, it's money, it's a question, can I get it, can I not? So feedback we've gotten from people who work in this area and trying to build in the downtown is we need to increase that allowed by right density. So we proposed in the ordinance that we increase that to 15 units per acre, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. So some of the questions and comments that we've had, excuse me, is again, how does this impact current uses? It does not impact current uses. If it's adopted and we do limit the ground floors, that would affect future uses. Existing uses would be able to continue. I've had some question about, well, what are those allowed uses? Because the ordinance language is pretty broad. We didn't want to get specific in an ordinance because then you start tying your hands too much. But looking through the different types of commercial establishments in the codes, this is an example of types of uses that could go in those ground floor spaces. Coming back to the density issue, currently again, most of our lots are 6,000 square foot lots. At 8 units per acre, you can get 1.1 under the current ordinance. I've actually been allowing people to do 2 by right just because 1 just really doesn't make any sense. So usually we round down, but in this case I'll round it up. If we up it to 15 units per acre, that's 2.6 units per acre. So we really haven't accomplished anything by going to the 15 units per acre. So another thought that's come to mind since we sent out the ordinance draft that I'll be looking at and looking for any feedback you have on, instead is to look at it in terms of number of units per square foot of the building footprint. So you have a 6,000 square foot lot. If we allow 1 unit per 2,000 square foot of your footprint, then you could get 3 units per floor. So if you have 3 floors or 2 floors of residential, you'd have 6 units on that. So that's still pretty low density. But I think that math works easy for everybody to understand what they can do and does increase it a little bit over what that 15 is. The next district we have is to the north, so between the Avenue and Palisades, we're calling that the business district, and trying to expand some of the uses allowed in there. Some of the uses that maybe we aren't as excited to see on the Avenue, the offices would be very welcome in the business district area, as well as continuing the other uses that are there with restaurants and entertainment type activities. So all those would still be allowed. Again, proposing to increase the dwelling unit to 15 units per acre, and limits the SUPs to things for residential densities only. And then going further north of Palisades up to the La Montana, in that triangle area, trying to expand that even more in terms of business opportunities and employment type opportunities. So here, again, the typical commercial districts, but starting to expand a little bit into some of the light industrial type things with the laboratories, the manufacturing and assembly of non-hazardous, non-toxic, light assembly and storage, as long as it's less than 50% of the building. Another thing we're looking at is temporary uses. We've got a number of vacant lots in the downtown area that are sitting there idle and maybe not as attractive as they could be. And so could we allow some temporary type activities and uses on those that would get them cleaned up a little bit, utilized a little bit, but don't require a big investment up front until the more permanent type uses could come along. And with that, we've again left the ordinance fairly general with the idea that we would create some guidelines that could be used by myself and the town engineer to guide that development. So again, cleans up the lot, addresses some of the concerns you might have with dust or access or some of those things, but they can be used. The ordinance continues the same allowances for common use parking in Plat 208. And another item that we may wish to consider However, particularly in the Plat 208 area, right now it has a 0 setback, so you can build to the property line, but you don't have to, particularly along the avenue and really on most of the Plat 208. We really want those businesses brought to the street, so you create that street wall and that interest and vibrancy and not be set back. And so maybe we want to change that into what's called in some codes is a build to line. So you have to build within 5 feet or 10 feet of the property line to make sure they are bringing those buildings forward. So we might consider that as an amendment to what's been looked at so far. Again, with regard to the vacant properties, I mentioned earlier the temporary uses as a separate item. We're also going to be looking at, are there some things we can do in our property maintenance code to step up the level of maintenance that's required on these vacant properties to keep them clean and attractive for the public and for visitors that come and potential investors. So that's an overview of this draft ordinance. I've had preliminary discussion with Avenue Merchants Association. We've mailed out the ordinance to different property owners within the town center area. Been talking to Plat 208 board about it and plan to go to their meeting in February and discuss it with them to continue that public input. Wanted to go ahead and get started with this commission to see if you had any early thoughts for us. But we will, when we're ready here, hopefully by March, set it for public hearing for more formal discussions. But any preliminary comments that you have would be appreciated at this time.
Commissioner Corey, I'll let you go first.
Thank you. Just a few comments, John. One of them is the grandfathered in aspect. So if, just for clarification, so if the business owner or the building owner is going to release or re-rent that to another business, then they would need to be, they would be then in the new plat, right? The new, not plat, but the new
ordinance, yes.
Yes. So would that potentially cause any issues, like they were expecting that they could provide one service and now it's going to change? Have we heard any issues there?
So thus far, I have not heard any. I would expect to hear them. That's the most controversial thing in this proposal, is that impact that could have.
Okay. And then I saw that the third, the innovation area, I kind of like that. I think I read in the agenda was that would allow new businesses to have a quicker approval process, right? One of the elements of that district would be that would let them come in quicker and set up shop a little bit quicker.
Chair, Commissioner Corey, yes, especially in terms of some of these uses. Right now, if they're allowed, some of these extra uses shown on the screen, if they're allowed, it's through special use permit, but if we make it by right, then certainly it would be quicker, or to keep them from having to rezone to allow the uses.
Yes, and I remember hearing that, you know, the process of getting the business license was time consuming, so maybe that's something I do like hearing about that. I want to talk a little bit about the move to curb, the street wall element. So I think in the picture that you showed, it reminds me of like the Safrita area, and there you go, it is Safrita's. If you go back one more. So that shows what it looks like today, and we can see that there's only room for maybe one wheelchair, if you're in a wheelchair, to go straight down there. The other people have to kind of wait. I think I brought this up last year because I was very concerned about it. So in the new image, it looks like this is a rendering of that same spot.
Yes.
So help me understand, the fence is in the same spot.
Yes. This dashed line represents the current location of the curb. And
As
so the
it is
proposal
today.
is, yes. And
I
so the
see.
proposal is that the curb gets moved out to create that additional landscape and pedestrian area.
So I still see cars parked there.
Yes.
So what does that mean to the street? Does that mean the cars are just pushed closer to the street and the street's still there?
Yes, Chairman, Commissioner, I didn't bring those slides. I didn't want to get off into that. It's not really part of this proposal too much, so I didn't bring the details. But yes, the center parkway stays the same,
Okay.
but the drive aisles currently are almost 2 lanes wide, but not quite.
Yes.
And
I
so
see.
that's what we're doing, is taking that extra wide drive lane and putting it over here on the pedestrian side.
Okay.
Everything else stays.
Okay,
stays the
thank you.
same.
That makes sense. It's unfortunate we didn't think of this a long time ago because it looks like it was recently paved and redone. But that's great to hear that. Okay, thank you.
It's recyclable.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. How will we drag race?
You can still do it. Just got to stay on a straight line.
It seems it's new pavement, brand new pavement, as you stated. Commissioner Kovacevic.
So I'm glad to hear you say that the most controversial thing are the uses on the avenue, because this would render the title company non-compliant or non-conforming, right?
So Chairman, Commissioner Kovacevic, the title company I can think of is on the south side. Maybe there's one on the north side. This just affects the north side of the street.
Okay.
But there are a
I
number of
didn't
realty
get that
offices in particular on that north side that would be affected.
Yeah,
example.
okay, so that helps. What about, there's some mortgage companies on
Right,
the north side as well.
there's various
And
office type uses.
Are they, and insurance, those are non-conform?
Those would be.
I guess I have a concern there because it was so hard for the developer to lease the retail space in the apartments on the south side. And how the demand, and my concern is that you're eliminating so many uses that you could be creating a vacancy problem on the north side of the street. I do have some concern for that, and I would hate to see you eliminate so many uses that demand couldn't support enough of the right kind of businesses that are approved for the north side of the street.
Yes, Chairperson and Commissioner, we are concerned about that also. We know it's a balancing act that we need to strike here. It's, the plan is that as we do the combination of things, these streetscape improvements that provide the room for the different, more vibrant types of uses, and other improvements in the lighting and the amenities that would drive that demand, so that the restaurants and the retail will want the avenue, and it'll be that process of filling in and basically pushing then the other uses out. And it won't be so much, because again, anybody that's there can stay there as long as they want to stay. It's only when a vacancy occurs that the refill would need to be within the code. But it is something we will continue to look at and see what kind of feedback we continue to get from the businesses and property owners.
Yeah, because I understand the merit of making it a restaurant and entertainment district. Like I said, I'm just concerned about the demand and whether it's there to support the whole north side of the avenue.
Right.
Commissioner Spian, or sorry, Commissioner Schlossberg first.
Yeah, I think you and I had spoken about this earlier, and I was a little irritated that I was going to be eliminated from being able to have an office space on the ground floor of the avenue. But I will tell you, over the weekend, I was down in Naples, Florida, my old hometown, on Fifth Avenue, and I was trying to wrap my head around what's different here than what is going on our avenue. And at the end of the day, I started doing an inventory, and that's what it was. So I think you're definitely on the right track, as much as it pains me that I want to be able to have an office there. But I think at the end of the day, to create the true vibrant avenue that we really all want, I think you're on the right track.
Thank you.
Commissioner Spian.
Did you say Naples?
Correct.
Well, there's a little bit different population as well. I mean, right? I mean, 25,000 people?
I would say demographically.
Okay. Yeah, I think that maybe there might be, rather than saying what types of businesses can be put in there, if the entertainment and dining and bar is the main draw or the main objective, is to maybe look at percentages of square footage that is being used by those. And maybe there's a sliding scale over a period of time, because I agree. I think there's a potential of vacancy that may be hard to fill up. Right? So I understand, it's hard, it's a tough balance. Did you say you presented it to TAMA?
Yes.
And the thoughts were positive about
Yes.
this?
Yes, it was. We had, trying to remember now, it's been a month or so ago, we had, I don't know, 6 or 8 people in the meeting. Yeah, so it wasn't an extensive group, but it was a representative group, and they were supportive.
They're not all property owners, though, are they?
Correct.
There are a lot of tenants that
Right.
are there.
Correct.
It might be good to get some feedback from property owners
Right,
as well.
right. And so we have, again, through Plat 208, supplied them with that so they can distribute it out to their membership, and otherwise for the area north of Palisades, mailed directly to the property owners that we could identify there. And again, have received really no particular feedback at this point.
Commissioner Corrigan.
Thank you, Chair. This may have been a question that was asked before in a different way by Commissioner Corey, but looking at the streetscape, I see the sidewalk being expanded. And I thought you said, John, that the street was then narrowed from 2 lanes to 1 lane?
Chairperson, Commissioner, so right now it's technically a 1-lane street. It's just a very, very wide 1 lane. It feels like 2 lanes. As that causes some confusion. Yeah, it causes confusion because people do pass others.
Yeah,
And
it
so
seems
this will-
like 2 lanes. But to follow up on that, does it add any parking or take away parking?
I don't remember now, Commissioner, how the parking numbers turned out. It's certainly very similar. If it's not exactly the same, it's plus or minus very close.
Okay. My concern is that parking places are at a minimum right now downtown, and I don't want to see anything taken away, if anything added.
Right,
Because if there's no place to park, you're not going to spend a lot of time downtown.
right. Okay.
All right, I've got a couple. He was telling jokes. It's not my fault. So macro thought here first. 4 commissioners have talked about use restriction, not restriction. You know, are we doing too much? We're one small piece of this. Economic development is a macro heavy hitter in this scheme, and we haven't had that here as long as I've been a homeowner in Fountain Hills. I'm assuming there's a town-level strategy that's going to champion that side of it, which is going to help fulfill the zoning vision that underlies this whole thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then just cherry picking from within, on the uses by right, I almost think, you know, on the first district, on the, what do you call it, the Avenue District?
Yes.
I think that we've done enough of it. We pot committed to Park Place. We just rezoned for Mr. Ejim and his investors across the street. I think we ought to consider, and I mean, of course, this is just exploratory, but we ought to consider allowing residential above by right in that Avenue District, I think is one.
Chairman, which we do
Oh, we
currently.
do, okay. I thought it was carved out there.
No, we currently do, and we will continue to. The question is at what density?
Okay, so
Today
I think
it's-
the density should be significantly higher. You know, if ever there was a place for density in residential, it's in that Avenue District, right?
So
And I
more-
don't know why we would do anything that's not commensurate with, what is it, we 35 across the street? 45. Maybe it doesn't need to be 45, but it can be at least our version of R5. What was I going to say? So going back to the economic development interface here, I'm just curious as, you know, hopefully we get maybe a joint session with that group, and I don't know what the board that Mr. Myers sits on, but maybe we can get a joint working session with them and zoning potentially, but I'm curious in a conversation like that, how close are we to density and catchment that would support, you know, various tiers of commercial and F&B coming in? Because we throw these darts, but we never really have a conversation about what's it take to support those and to be able to allow economic development to go out and grab those folks and start to have those conversations. Put the flyers in the airplane seat pockets, so to speak. You talked about, trying to read my own typed notes, that's really bad. You talked about setback building line. I think that what I also would envision in concert with that is a prescribed landscape plan for continuity, especially along the avenue, so you don't get, you don't go through multiple reviews or versions as different parcels are developed, that it's, here's the prescription and the avenue, is structured from end to end. And then I just want to ask a question. So Clayton obviously loves the idea of sidewalk outside of Sofritas, but didn't we just put an ordinance through, I'm going to say a year and a half ago, that allowed businesses to, I don't think it was even through a permit, they could just by right extend their seating areas onto the sidewalk? So we extend this sidewalk, then does that not just, elastic, balloon out to take over that whole footprint again?
Chairman, I'm trying to remember exactly what that change was. The main thing I remember, and I think Farhad worked on it, maybe he'll remember a little bit better than I can.
I think we said you had to have 4 foot clear, but you
Right.
could, you could let your seating encroach onto the public walk.
Right. So we had a little difference between what was allowed in the TCCD district, which is what we have here on this side of the avenue with the Park Place, versus the entertainment district on the other side. And so we made some amendments to the entertainment district to make those more similar in terms of what those outdoor uses could be. But you still have to get a encroachment permit for any use out into the right-of-way. And so that is something else too that we may try to shorten up with this once this, if and when the street does get widened.
Okay.
But yes, we did do something along that line.
Okay.
But it's not to the extent of this.
And then just one last one is, and I know it's very, very early here, but I think, as we talk about making better use of our ultra-wide avenue there, probably, looking at bike lane dedication and so on. Maybe not a street bike lane, but a concrete pathway while we're doing those improvements or in that scheme. So, but by and large, I think this is a great idea.
Okay, thank you.
So,
All right. Appreciate the feedback, and we'll be back with the public hearing in a month or two.
Sounds good. Paul, we've got one speaker card on the agenda item. Not a public hearing, but a speaker card.
Yes, Chair, Larry Myers.
Oh, he's already exhausted his attempts tonight, Paula.
Actually, my idea, you already spoke it. I think when I go on the 26th, I will recommend that somebody from this Planning and Zoning Commission be added to the committee, because I think it's a really good idea. And tonight, it's like you've outdone yourself with regard to thinking. When Scott said, I really wanted to have an office on the ground floor of the avenue, but I see your point. Planning, you can't plan with fear. So my word to Mr. Kovacevic is, yeah, I get it. You don't want to be worried about, oh my God, can we fill the spaces up? And think about the avenue, and then think about, forget all the realtors because they're useless at night, taking up space that I could be entertained in.
Well, that was dangerous about a year ago up here. We were half realtors at one point.
Yes. So let's think about something. I mean, even worse than the realtors would be Fearless Kitty. But let's think about something for all the farmers and butchers who sit on this commission. Sometimes you have to thin the herd to get a healthier herd. And you can't be afraid of it. Otherwise, you're frozen in time. And so I I like this idea. Proceed with caution. Do it over time, and you'll be just dandy. Thanks. And I will recommend one of y'all get on that.
You know, we'll talk about that in the next agenda item, but I think what we look at is maybe a brief from that commission. I mean, certainly anybody could sit there, but a brief from that commission at the hearing if, you know, if someone's willing.
I will
Volunteer
bring
for
it
that.
up. Thanks.
All right, commission, any other thoughts? We've got a long road on that one. It sounds like, so John, what does that timeline look like?
So again, the hope is meet with the Plateau 8 committee. Again, I think it's in the February meeting, depending on what feedback we get at that point, make any adjustments and advertise for a March P&Z commission meeting, then on to council from there. If we get there and we get a lot of rocks and bricks and things thrown at us and realize we need to step back, then it may be a little bit longer. But given the fact that we really haven't got anything significant at this point, I think it'll go fairly well.
Commissioners, last chance, we're moving on. All right, number 11, commission discussion, a request for research to staff. John, I'll just pick up with some of my comments from the agenda items 8 and 9. I think there's some takeaways there that we should probably consider.
Yes. And Chairman, I will mention that back before we came forward with the 7-unit apartments, that the Economic Development Director and I did meet with some representatives of Plat 106, suggesting to them basically the same thing. We need a kind of a, I'll use the term comprehensive plan for what's going to happen here. This piecemealing isn't going to be the best approach, and we weren't quite able to get there at that time. Maybe this will help motivate it.
And I guess my main takeaway tonight is we really should consider factoring open space and density in these conversions and not just go with the prevailing assumption that a conversion is what the voting populace wants.
Right. Yes. Something that's a little bit lacking in our code, even in the multifamily districts, is really a percentage of open space that's required. And so that might be really the first step, is what that is. And then in the commercial district, saying if you're going to do the SUP, here's the residential piece you need a mirror.
Okay. Commissioner Steele?
John, I just had what was the per acre density for that project we approved on the avenue?
It was right at 45, 46, I believe.
Yeah. And it was, yeah, so it was like 12 units or something like
Right,
that, wasn't it?
Yeah, 12 units on 12,000 square feet.
45 or 46 per acre?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, think about it, yeah, because it's 1 per 1,000 square feet, so it's 43.56. Just as a quick side note on that, Chairman, and so the commissioners are aware, that request was scheduled for council next Tuesday, but has been withdrawn by the property owner.
Completely?
Completely, yes. She has sold the property, and so the new buyer will have to move forward with. And we've had the preliminary discussion with him, and he's looking at something similar but different, so he'll have to start over again.
Mr. Ejim's proposal last month on the avenue? Yeah.
Yes.
So the special use, well, it never went to a vote,
Right.
so its application is.
Right. And so maybe not to beat this too far, but this is an example. If that had gone to council and they would have approved it, sell the property, it hadn't been developed, he'd start over at square one anyway, because it doesn't vest until it's built.
Good. We put that in some time ago. I think that's going to bear fruit over time here. So that was a good pickup. Commissioner Corey?
Yes, we're on 11 still, commission discussion. I just wanted to take this moment to thank Chairman Gray for all of his service to the commission.
I'm not going anywhere.
Well, as chair, let me add that part. I don't know, it's been a few years, I think, and I appreciate the way that you've led the group and made everyone feel valued and welcomed here, and
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, number 12. Moving on. Yeah, quickly.
I don't have my agenda up here, so is 12 back from me?
That's you. yeah.
Okay. Yes, Chairman Gray, it's been a pleasure having you as chair. Future Chairman Kovacevic, we're glad to have you on board as chair. Look forward to working with you. Knowing there's a learning curve there, we're going to, looks like, give you till March to get comfortable in your role. We're not aware right now of anything that we have for a February meeting. First time we've had a break in a while, I think. And so, happy Valentine's Day. That subject, a little bit of change if something comes up, but right now we know of nothing for a February meeting.
Okay. The dreaded number 13, report.
That's it.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.